Morning, we'll talk about foster care, adoption, in our budget and what we've done in our budget in regard to children's services and the whole child welfare issue. In addition to that, at the end, I will have a brief comment about the vaccine and about the virus. Since my days as a assistant county prosecuting attorney in Greene County, I have remained very interested, focused in regard to our child welfare system in the state of Ohio. My first budget as governor, we made historic investment to improve our children's services. We nearly doubled the state's investment to county children's service agencies. And I'm pleased to say that the General Assembly not only accepted that, but added $35 million to that. So I think we have a common desire to take care of these children. We have invested in our children's service agencies for a long time. Last budget, we really started to pick that up. And our budget this year continues that and actually expands that in several ways that I'm going to talk about in a moment. The foster care system must remain at the top of our priority. Ohio has more than 15,000 children in foster care in Ohio. There is an urgent and continuing need for more families to care for these new foster children. Further, there are 3,000 children in the foster care system in Ohio who are now eligible for adoption. 3,000. They are waiting. They're waiting for us. In 2019, we formed the Children's Services Transformation Advisory Council to review Ohio's foster care system, develop recommendations for improving the experience of children and families. The council held 10 regional meetings throughout the state of Ohio and got great input, both in people coming in person, as well as people who sent in testimony. They heard about the system's shortcomings. They listened to examples of children who had been failed by the system. One of the things they learned was that too often our foster care system is more focused on the adults than it is on the children. This is wrong. This simply must change. Here are some true stories. Joey and Stephen have lived with the same foster family for 9 years since they were infants. 9 years since they were babies. Their foster parents desperately want to adopt them. However, rather than let their foster parents adopt them forever, the Children's Service Agency will only give the foster parents legal custody, leaving the boys in limbo and without a forever family. Another true story. There's baby that we'll call Baby Z. Baby Z lived with his foster family for 3 years, arriving in their home just weeks after he was born. Baby Z would occasionally visit his biological grandmother, but his foster parents and baby brother were the only family he truly knew. Yet, he was removed from the only home he had ever known and placed with unfamiliar relatives. 3 years. Imagine your grandchild, your child, living with you, living in a family for 3 years, and then boom. Another tragic story. Jordan became the foster parent of a 4-day-old baby boy. He noticed that the baby would cry constantly and have fits, have tremors. Ultimately, the baby tested positive for fentanyl exposure and was diagnosed with neonatal abstinence syndrome. But shockingly, the Children's Service Agency had never shared the baby's special circumstances and needs with his foster caregiver. Worse, despite the baby's vulnerable condition, the agency was still planning to reunify the child with his birth mother, who remained addicted to drugs. Every Ohioan should be outraged by these tragic stories. Now, let me just say that after giving these tragic stories, our foster care workers, our children's services workers work hard. The vast majority of them do a very, very good job. We must eliminate these outlier cases, though. These are children. As I said, children's service cases were among my first cases when I started out as an assistant prosecutor. I took that experience from the prosecutor's office with me to the U.S. Senate, where I added language to the Adoption and Safe Families Act to ensure that the law said, and that the law was very clear, that a child's safety was the paramount concern when placement decisions were being made. While the wisdom of this would seem self-evident, it was truly groundbreaking at the time, and I got a lot of criticism. Later, while serving as Ohio's Attorney General, our state began to see how the opioid epidemic was robbing children of their parents. In many communities, an entire generation of children has been traumatized by parental substance abuse, and as a result of that, severe neglect. While life has grown more difficult for children, sadly, the foster care system many times has not kept up. Children are being reunified with families, even when it clearly remains unsafe for them to do so. Children are being removed from foster families who have loved and cared for them their entire lives to be placed with relatives that they never even met. Children are being denied the ability to do typical kid things such as going to sleepovers, getting a driver's license, attending field trips, not because of the law, but rather because of bureaucratic concerns about legal liability. All of this must change. This change, I will say, is beginning to occur. It must move faster. There are many people in the system who want to make those changes, and many people who in the system who are fighting for that. Let me introduce you to Danica Pingle, who is helping to transform the culture of children's services in Fairfield County. Danica is a peer mentor in the Ohio START program, a program that we started when I was Attorney General, that we've continued and expanded. Several years ago, she lost custody of her own son for a time due to substance abuse. Today, she is in long-term recovery and helps other parents achieve recovery themselves by holding them accountable and supporting them when they falter. So thank you, Danica. Thank you very much for joining us, and tell us your story and tell us really what you do every day.
Well, good morning, Governor DeWine,
Morning.
and thank you for having me this morning. My name is Danica Pingle, and I am a family peer mentor with the Ohio START program with Fairfield County Protective Services. I am contracted with them through Ohio Guidestone, and I've been with both of those agencies in implementing the Ohio START program for 2 years. A family peer mentor is somebody with that lived experience. As Governor DeWine said, I've went through my own addiction, my own mental health, my own child welfare. I had my son when I was 15 years old, and it wasn't too long after that where I became addicted. Throughout my addiction, it took me down multiple dark paths and ultimately to child welfare cases where I did lose custody of my son and my complete identity. It wasn't until years later when I did get sober that I was able to start healing our family and building a relationship with my child. So today I get to use that experience to work with parents who get in the child welfare system, are identified that they have substance use problems, and then I get to meet with them as soon as they come to our desk. As soon as their family is introduced to us, I get to go out, meet with the family, meet with the children. If they're not in the home, I go see where the children are staying, who their safe capacity is, and begin to work a case plan with them. I've been sober for over 5 years now. I got custody of my son just a couple years ago. He is 12, and our family is whole today, thankfully to all the supports that I have. And today I get to use that experience to support other parents so they can achieve that too.
Well, that's great. Thank you very, very much. What is, just one question, what's your biggest challenge? What's tough about about this job? It has to be a rewarding job, but I'm sure there's also disappointments connected with it. What's the toughest part?
That's a hard question. The toughest part has to be when parents disengage in services. They disengage in services, disengage in parenting time, and we can't connect with them for a lengthy amount of time, and we have to start looking for permanency for those children.
And is that normally caused just by a relapse in addiction, or or can you generalize at all about why that happens? Why a parent will kind of drop out and then you can't continue to work with them?
Sure. I believe it's mostly from untreated trauma and the lack of making those positive changes in their life, regardless if the supports were there in place for them or not.
Well, thank you very, very much. Yours is really an inspiring story, your personal story, and thank you for taking that and the passion that you bring from that to help others and to help other families, to help other children. So thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. These kids have only one chance to grow up, so it's imperative that we get this right. They're truly counting on all of us. In our executive budget that we have presented to the General Assembly, we make new investments in Ohio's children's service system, above and beyond the investments we are already making in the current operating budget. So we will continue that significant new investment in general in the budget. In addition, we will invest $32 million to expand Ohio Start's program, which provides specialized services to families, particularly children who have suffered victimization due to their parents' drug abuse. That goes from $20 million in the last budget for the biennium to $32 million in this biennium. Next, we will invest $24 million, and this is a very significant increase from $7 million over the biennium. $24 million to bring Wendy's Wonderful Kids to every county in the state of Ohio. This is a phenomenal program that has a proven track record. And what it really does is put at least one person in that children's service agency whose sole focus every single day is taking the kids who are legally ready to be adopted and finding them permanent homes. What happens many times is that children's services are so overwhelmed with work that no one has the ability to have any time to focus on doing that. And so having one person who's dedicated that is their job, or even more than one, it makes a huge, huge difference. Since Ohio has implemented the program, more than 1,000 children have been adopted through Wendy's Wonderful Kids. And so it's a great program we plug into, and we're expanding that. And our goal is every single county in the state. Next, we will invest $10 million to recruit more foster parents. This is a continuation of funding. Right now, just about 8,000 families are licensed to care for more than 15,000 children. We need more foster parents, and to ensure that every child needs a foster home, it's just so very, very important. Every child needs a loving, well-trained family to care for them. We simply must recruit more people as foster parents. Next, new program, new money. We will invest $10 million to implement evidence-based programs that prevent children from having to enter foster care at all. One of the most frequent messages we heard from former foster youth, and we listened to them as we traveled around the state, was that a helping hand could have prevented them from ever coming into care at all. These funds will help establish programs that provide that particular helping hand, whether in the form of mental health or parenting support services or just connections to basic necessities. Next, our budget invests $1.5 million. That's an increase from $1.1 million to better recruit and train college students interested in pursuing careers in children's services. This is a tough, tough profession. We need the best people that we can find. We need dedicated people, and we need to make sure that they have the requisite training even before they start out to go out into the field. Too many county public children's service agencies lack the workforce to meet the needs of their kids and their families. By expanding Ohio University's partnership program to more college campuses, it's a model program. We want to take it to more campuses. We can better recruit, train, and retain our essential children's service workers. Next, a new money, $1 million to create a statewide ombudsman to provide accountability and transparency for Ohio's foster care system. So often, there's a need for that individual. This person will ensure that everyone touched by the children's service system has an opportunity for justice through independent investigations into allegations of wrongdoing. We also have language to create a Bill of Rights for foster youth and families, so all involved are empowered to exercise their legal rights. Too often, foster youth and families don't feel as if they're allowed to share their thoughts and their experiences with the courts or make decisions about their case plans. They need to be part of this. Bills of rights for each will ensure that youth and families know their statutory protected rights so that they can exercise them. It just lays out everybody's rights. Also in the budget is an overhaul of our training, technical assistance, and professional development programs for the children's services system. This overhaul will help refocus professional development on the use of best practices, including the following: prioritizing the best interests of the child. 2, not letting children languish in care without a plan for permanency. 3, training all children's service workers in implicit bias and trauma-informed practices to ensure families, regardless of race, are treated with care and respect. And finally, bringing uniformity and high standards to all 88 county public service agencies when they make decisions about reported concerns for abuse and neglected children. Some reports are investigated, some are not. By bringing uniformity to these decisions, we can reduce disparities and make sure children are removed from dangerous situations when it is appropriate. We have great children's services, we have great people, but we are a decentralized system, and it's important that no matter where that child is found in the state of Ohio, that there be uniformity as far as investigations and uniformity as far as standards. And so we will continue to strive for that. Our goal is to change the children's services system in the state of Ohio and to change it and get it right. I believe that these investments will transform our foster care system to be more compassionate, more child-centered. After what has been an extremely challenging time in Ohio for everyone, we have an opportunity with this budget to make the kinds of investments that will bring renewal and recovery across Ohio. This is renewal and recovery into one of our most important governmental services, and that is how we protect our most vulnerable children. These investments will build on our existing policies and initiatives to help ensure that all Ohio children have the opportunity to reach their God-given potential. Let me just say a couple brief comments as we've continued to work on the vaccinations over the last day since the news conference yesterday. I want to again reiterate, we have already notified providers, and there'll be about 1,000 providers coming up next week. Already notified providers of increase in vaccine coming to them. Roughly 300,000 doses coming early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, spread over that period of time. In addition to that, there is certainly a distinct possibility that by the latter part of the week, we will have an additional 90,000 Johnson & Johnson. So this is a significant increase. And so let me say to our providers, this is a change. You're going to be getting more this week. Please plan for that. We still expect you to have that out within 5 days, at the farthest 7 days. So getting these in people's arms remains imperative urgent, you have that responsibility to do that. Second, let me say to everyone who is 65 years of age and older, or who falls into the medical category, now is the time to get your shot. Now is the time. We're very concerned, and Dr. Vanderhoff will talk about this next week. We're seeing more of the UK variant in different counties in Ohio. And on a call with doctors this morning, there's a concern about this. So what this simply means is we're not going to panic. The future looks good, but there should be now a real sense of urgency for people to get the shot when they can get it. So if you're 65 and over, now's the time. Let me just give some examples. Fran went online about an hour ago. And this was, she just went into Kroger's. I only use Kroger just illustratively, and I'll read some other ones, but Kroger's, Stringtown, today for March 5th, 12 doses still available. Bell Fountain for March 4th, 11 doses. London for March 3rd, 12 open right now. Reynoldsburg, Kroger, March 3rd, 18. Dublin, Hospital Drive, March 3rd, 15. Cemetery Road, March 5, 6. Findlay, March 5, 19. These are all Kroger I'm reading. Fostoria, March 4, 17. New Lexington, March 2nd, 17. Bucyrus, March 2nd, 14. Fostoria, March 4, 16. Tiffin, March 5, 5. Just as examples. We also had our team go out and take a look at some other ones. And these are from, we've just put all these together. This is Kroger, Giant Eagle, Discount Drug Mart, Walmart, and others, just as illustrative to see what's available. So in the zip code 43215, downtown Columbus area, 35 provider locations within 10 miles with vaccine in stock. Zip code Warrensville Heights, 44128, 41 provider locations within 10 miles with vaccine in stock right now. Zip code 45424, Huber Heights, 28 separate provider locations within 10 miles with vaccine in stock. Norwood, Ohio, 45212, 32 separate providers locations within 10 miles with vaccine in stock. Sylvania, 43617, 28 provider locations within 10 miles with vaccine in stock. So it's out there. Now's the time. I know some people have been frustrated. Now's the time to go out and take it. And while we still have not moved the 65 down to 60, but that will be the next big jump, that big group of people that we make. So again, we should feel good about where we are. We're vaccinating, we're moving forward, but now's the time to get vaccinated. And if you're 65 and over and you've been frustrated, I understand, but now there's these locations out there. And I just use these as just some illustrations, but the vaccine is available. Go get it scheduled now, before we move the number and increase more people coming in. So this is really the opportunity to do that. Happy to take questions. And
Okay, good morning, Governor. Your first question
Jill.
is from Jeremy Pelzer at cleveland.com.
Hi, good morning, Governor.
good morning.
Josh Mandel spoke at CPAC about an hour ago, and he called you squishy and a rhino. Wanted to get a reaction from you, sir.
I have no reaction. I have no reaction at all. Look, I've been called a lot of things, so that's okay. Look, I politics is an interesting business, and he's running for office, and he says what he says, but Josh is still my friend, and I'm sure he'll be my friend after political season is all over. So.
Your next question is from Randy Ludlow at the Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Randy.
Good morning, Governor. You talk of a concern about the UK variant. The CDC says cases increased from 11 to 19 at its update posted last night. How real a threat is this? That number would likely strike most Ohioans as small.
Sure. I'm going to go to Dr. Vanderhoff if he is on there.
Yes, Governor.
Randy, I think it's much better to let an expert answer that question. That's a very good, certainly a very good question. It's not like a light bulb just went off. We've seen this coming. Dr. Vanderhoff has briefed it about what is in the future, but we are seeing more of that. And so, Dr. Vanderhoff, you want to talk a little bit about what might be the significance here and what we're actually are seeing now?
Yes, thank you, Governor. I'm happy to. So, Randy, I think what we're seeing is that as a result of our good work with masking and distancing, as well as growing immunity from vaccination, that we've gained an upper hand. I think that explains a lot of the improvement we've seen so far in the numbers. But gaining an upper hand and winning this race are two different things. The virus isn't just packing up and going home. It's been pressured globally, and as a result, new mutations have arisen that have given it some selective advantage. And now a few variants, most notably B117, are taking advantage of a particular mutation that allows the virus to be more contagious. It's essentially changed the stickiness of the spike protein. Now, that doesn't change the mechanics of viral spread. It still needs to get into a respiratory droplet and go from one nose to another. So our masks and our distancing are still excellent tools, but what has changed is that increasingly we're going to see that once it gets to my nose, it takes less virus to infect me, and the virus may make me sicker quicker. Now, you're absolutely right. ODH and the CDC have been partnering to perform genomic analysis here in the state. We had, as of yesterday, 12 cases. We were monitoring a number of others. Those have been recently added to our count. And while it is true that we're at relatively low numbers at this point, when we look at the distribution of these variants in the state, it's north, it's south, it's urban, it's rural. And when we look at the country as a whole, this B117 variant is now in most of our states, and it is moving quickly in Southern California and Florida. So I think that we need to be not only keeping a close eye on this, but recognizing the virus for what it is and what it's doing. The way out of this remains vaccination. It allows us to get enough immunity to force this thing into a corner, but B117 and its friends are simply underscoring for us how important it remains for all of us to continue the precautions we've been following so well, masking and distancing, which clearly are working, and when it's our turn, to get in line and get vaccinated.
Dr. Vanderhoff, do we know how many counties this is?
Yes, we do. Now, my last count included the 12. I have to actually go pull notes for the additional cases, but we had Cuyahoga, Hamilton, Lorain, Medina, Portage, and Ross in the 12. And I'll have to go back and look at the extra cases to see which counties they've been added to.
All right, and when you do, we'll get you back on. But one, should someone assume that they're in other counties? We just haven't seen it.
Absolutely. So, what is going on with any kind of testing is that it provides us with sampling. And so what's important about the testing is the trends and direction that it is revealing to us. Remember, it was, not that long ago that we only had on the CDC site one case, and then we had and now we've had. So what it's telling us is that, look, B117 is here. And B117, wherever it has been, has spread very rapidly. We've been predicting that late March into April is when we are going to see B117 as our dominant strain. And, I have every reason based on this information to continue to believe that.
Doctor, for terminology, is there a difference between 117 and what has been dubbed the UK? What is there a difference or what?
No, that's a good question, Governor. So the UK variant is what the medical community and scientists call B117. The South African variant is called B1351, and P1 is the name of the Brazilian variant. They're cousins. They have a mutation in common, and then they have some other, the South African and Brazilian variants have some other mutations.
But I think you've said before, though, that the 117, which you've been talking about, we have strong evidence that the current vaccines available deal with this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely true. The current vaccines do extremely well against B117 and even against P1 and B1351, the ones that are related historically to South Africa and Brazil. We now have multiple studies that give us continued confidence in our vaccines against those. I'll give you probably the best example of the confidence we can have is the vaccine that is under review today by the advisory committee, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And in its worldwide trials, it was clear it was 100% effective, even in South Africa and Brazil, at preventing hospitalization and death, the endpoints that really matter when we look at vaccines. So very encouraging, and we have great confidence in the vaccines.
Doctor, thank you very much.
Governor, your next question is from Pete Grieve at Spectrum News.
Hello, Governor. I'm wondering, I'm looking at the state's vaccine dashboard, as I know you do, every morning. And I'm having, you mentioned maybe 3 to 4 weeks out for expanding eligibility earlier in the week. But, if we're getting 400,000 a week, I'm having a hard time finding 1.2 million more seniors who you could vaccinate. So I'm wondering if there's thought in maybe doing that and making an announcement next week or in 2 weeks of expanding eligibility. I'm also wondering if Dr. Vanderhoff could talk about the variants P2 and B1427/B1429, which are in Ohio.
Sure, I'll take the first part. Your answer is you're very perceptive. This is the discussion we were having last night when we continue to drill down on these numbers. Look, what we do not know is what the ceiling is. We're looking at 80-year-olds, and we seem to be kind of stuck at 60%. It's not bad. But, we would obviously love to see those numbers significantly go up. And as you can look on our chart, each group, you see the different numbers. I think the next group, 65 to 70, is roughly at 50% now. So my message today, there's a lot of vaccine coming next week. It's going to be, this is a game changer next week. People should take this opportunity because we probably are going to move up the time that we thought maybe a week ago that we would make the change. So we're monitoring these numbers every day, but this is the opportunity, now this weekend, and because the different providers, many of them are open now and are opening open for next week. And it's now the time to lock those times in, that slot in for yourself, so you know that you have the opportunity next week. We'll have something, I'll have more, after we spend some more time this weekend really going through the numbers, I'll have something more definitive, next week about when we're going to make the next move. So that's coming. But you're right. We're trying to constantly figure out, what is the ceiling, and we know, frankly, that to get herd immunity, we've got to hit some pretty high numbers. But we also know we got to get the vaccine out to everybody as quick as we can. So, Doctor?
Yes, Governor, thank you. Yes, in terms of the variants, here's what I would recommend people think about for right now. There are actually many variants of interest, variants of the virus that have mutations that we are taking a look at. But in terms of what really is going to matter to us in the near future, there are the three that I mentioned are the three that I think we need to be paying close attention to. And all three of them have the particular N501Y mutation that is seen in B117, the so-called UK variant. That, again, is a mutation that increases the transmissibility of the virus. And B1351 and P1 share that mutation. They also have other mutations, and most notably one called E484. And that seems to be responsible for some of the decreased impact on the antibody neutralization that you may have seen. But I want to make something very clear. While that is true, it also appears to be clear that there is still substantial antibody neutralization that occurs, and that says nothing about the cellular, or I've referred to as adaptive immunity, that these vaccines bring about, which appears to work very well still against even these other variants. So that's how I would think about the variants for now. Otherwise, one can almost get lost in the sea of variants.
Thank you. Thanks, Doctor.
Next question is from John Reed at Gongwar.
Good afternoon, Governor, or
John.
Good morning. Back to the foster care and children's services issues. What is in the budget that looks at kinship care and particularly helping out these kinship families that are kind of in more informal settings where it's, they maybe didn't go through the whole system, but it's the aunt or uncle taking care of the kid?
Yeah, let me turn it to Director Christy Burry. Director, can you want to take that one on?
Yes. Yes, the budget does include investments into the new Kinship support program that focuses on all of those kinship caregivers across the state who are providing temporary care for children who are in the temporary custody of the children's services agencies. So the budget does include those new investments to be able to make sure that from day one of stepping up to help us care for those children who have now entered the foster care system, to ensure that they have access to extra resources and support to assist them with that.
No, Director Murnix, do you have anything to add to that? I'm not sure you would, but yeah.
Sure, Governor, I can just add specifically the budget includes $60 million in financial assistance to kinship caregivers while they're working towards their foster care licensure. So that's the specific dollar amount.
Thank you.
Next question is from Jim Province at the Toledo Blade.
Hey, Jim.
Hi again, Governor. In the past, you've talked about the system and the aging out of foster care youth when they hit the age of 18. I know that there have been attempts to deal with this in the past, but is there money in this budget to provide additional help with them in terms of housing, in terms of possibly college education, things like that?
Christy, you want to take that? Or Kim, either one of you.
Sure, I can start, and then Director, if you have anything
Sure.
to add for more of the specifics. Yes, there is a focus, and especially with the pandemic and the additional federal dollars coming into the states for this population, there is a top priority on those kids that are aging out of both of our county children's services agencies and also our state Bridges program, to ensure that we are allowing them to stay involved in our programs and supports and services and funding resources to ensure housing and any other assistance they may need. And then there's continues to be more funding that is becoming available to us as a result of COVID to specifically prioritize this population.
Director, anything? Director Murnix, anything else on that?
No, nothing to add other than that has been a priority for the administration throughout the pandemic.
Let me just add, Chancellor Gardner is not on here, but I'll have him get back with you in regard to what our colleges are doing in this area, because our colleges are doing more. We've asked them to do more to prioritize young people who are coming out of the foster care system and want to go to college. So that remains a priority as well. So we'll have the Chancellor get in touch with you on that.
Governor, your last question today is from Adrian Robbins at NBC4.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for doing this today. What kind of signs are you seeing or effects are you seeing on the foster care system when it comes to the pandemic? Obviously, issues reach back to the opioid crisis, but are you seeing that the pandemic is also having effects on the foster care system? And a lot of caseworkers talk about being overworked and underpaid. It's not really a big secret. Did you think about in this budget possibly having a raise or anything like that for these workers to try to keep the ones that you said, a lot of them do really great work, to try to keep those people around?
Yeah, I mean, what we've done in that area, as you know, this is we're a local government state. We're a decentralized state. We don't run it out of Columbus. It's run out of 88 counties. And what we have done is in the last budget and in this budget put, a lot more just money that's flowing back to local children's services. Now, we shouldn't assume they've got an abundance of money, but that is how we have the ability to impact their budget and their ability to hire and their ability to give raises. We did not put an earmark in there specifically for raises. That would normally not be what we would be doing because they're county employees. Director Burry, you have any comments in regard to that question about the strain on the system that's come about because of the pandemic, or anything that you all are seeing that is different in the last year? I mean, one of the things that whenever you see an uptick in the use of drug addiction, it always spills over and there are other victims, and they're not just the person who's addicted, it's that victim's family, that victim's children. So we always see that.
Absolutely. Even before the pandemic, obviously, we had been watching what was happening to our children and families across the state, and therefore the impact on our local children's services agencies because of the opioid epidemic. There had already been a significant increase on the volume of children and families coming into our system, and a significant number of children entering the foster care system at that time, which absolutely put a strain on the workforce. Those cases just became more complex complex and challenging. And then we luckily were able to begin prioritizing our work with our county children's services agencies, and the pandemic hit. So we know that those same children and families and those same county children's services agencies that were already struggling and trying to build themselves up from what happened with the opioid epidemic, they've now been strained even more. So the workforce is absolutely something that continues to be a challenge across all of our child and family serving agencies, and something that we know that we need to continue to prioritize in terms of supports and training, working with the universities and higher learning to better prepare our future workforce.
Great, Director. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all on Monday.